listening to The Chris Maher Show, live on YouTube.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to The Chris Maher Show here on the channel. A lot to talk about tonight. A lot of content for me. Gonna get right into it. Not gonna waste any time. Exit day was Friday. Flyers season is over. The NHL playoffs have started. Phantoms are making their playoff debut tonight. Doing the watch party for that. Jay Rosehill will be joining me in about 20 minutes. A lot of different things. Some player grades, things like that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, thanks everybody so much for all the support. Let's get into this one. So, a couple of things. Let's just kind of start out with exit day, because exit day, that was, I think there's a lot to unpack from exit day. So I have a bunch of clips here from Tippett, Farabee, Frost, D'Angelo, Briere, Hayes, and Atkinson and Tortorella. And I'm going to be playing a bunch of those. Going to be dissecting a bunch of things. Mr. Twister, what's up, brother? Thanks for tuning in. Tristan, what's up, buddy? Always good to hear from you. I just banged my microphone. So again, I have a bunch of stuff here that I want to kind of break down. And again, I'm not going to be wasting much time. Just want to tweet this out real quick. For exit day, there was a lot to unpack. So let's just kind of get right into it here. I'm going to start with torts, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I don't like using the word culture. I think it's overused. I do think the understanding what it is to be a pro, standard of practice, standard of quite honestly, what accountability means. As I said to you guys earlier, when I first came here, it's a great word. But holding people accountable, you find out about people. And I have found out about people, as far as people that simply don't know what the word means. And I'm talking about players. Some players just don't want to be held accountable, or just can't handle it. That's building a standard. And I guess the way I'll put it is, there, and I've said it to you throughout the year, I don't think there are many nights this season, and I don't care what you call us, what you say what our year was, one of the biggest points was how hard we play. I think that's the starting ground of building a standard. There weren't many nights we didn't play hard. So I'm really encouraged with that. The accountability factor, as far as what's expected, as far as play, as far as being a pro, conduct, practice habits, being a teammate, playing under a team concept. We've got some work to do, and not with all of them, but with a number of our players, and I expected that, and we're going to keep banging away at it. I do. I just, I'm not sure what it, even with you guys, I think when there's accountability with a player, or something doesn't go right and a player is benched or isn't happy, you guys think it's the end of the world. It's part of the process of building accountability. And I'll leave it at that. I'm not trying to be vague, but we have work to do. And I think we have work to define that and understand what the definition of accountability is. I think to everybody with the team, in the organization, players, you guys, we're going to continue to try to teach the definition of accountability through actions. And so played hard, but we have some work to do as far as the mental state of what it is to be a National Hockey League player and what's expected each and every day.
And I think the biggest thing that I find from that, and is exactly what Mr. Twister put in the chat here, is I have found out about people, and that is one of the things that is very, it's not really like concerning. It's just like, it kind of makes me think, because there's a lot of different things that are going to be going into this, this summer and next season about what's going to change with this team. Who's going to get moved out, all these different things. I think for, unfortunately, as the season ends, it's unfortunate. Jeffrey, what's up, brother? Thank you for tuning in. It's kind of unfortunate because, I look at it like, I'd like to see more things in the positive direction, I guess, because I do feel like there were a lot of positives in this, and I think a lot of the younger guys kind of talked about that as well. I think when Torts is saying that, it means A, they clearly still have work to do. I think everybody understands that. B, there's going to be different guys that are going to be moved here, and some of them I don't think are going to be as, like writing on the wall type as we all think. I think there's going to be one curveball here, and I'm not sure who it is. And I kind of wanted to. I'm going to play Briere here, and he's he's asking about answering the same type of question on that too. So I'll play that now.
Well, we'll communicate with Torts and his coaching staff. It's not something that's going to be done just upstairs or downstairs. We're all going to collaborate, work together on that. Torts is really clear. There's things that are important to him. How players carry themselves and how they play, how they act. And that's going to be a big part of it. It was a big part of it this year. If you look at how things were done and were ran, accountability was a big thing throughout the organization, and I think that's part of the progress that you saw this year. There's definitely a big change when it comes to a certain standard, and you can use the word accountability for it.
So I think Briere's, he kind of took a little bit more of the positive approach with it, and he's like, there were things that went well, and I agree. I think there are certain guys, because I know I highlighted the one part of Torts, but that was like a 30-minute long press conference. So he mentioned a bunch of different things, and one of the things he said was different guys came to him. TK came to him, Tony came to him, Frost came to him. I think there's some things, and one guy who he mentioned who didn't come to him was Kevin Hayes, who was also benched. I had heard in the beginning of the season that Hayes was one of the guys who didn't go to Torts about it, and it didn't go the best way, and I think now everybody kind of understands why. So, there's a lot of different things that are going to be happening here. Jeffrey, I want to answer your question here. He said, I heard on at least 2 blogs that all the Flyers are on the table as far as trades, higher places in the draft, etc. What do you think? I think it's fair to listen on everybody. Necessarily pulling the trigger, I don't think so. For me, I don't think they're trading Travis Konechny. I don't think they're trading Carter Hart. Outside of that, I don't. There's no reason to get rid of Frost. There's no reason to get rid of Tippett, because at the same time, it's like you have to look at the other side of it too. It's like we need players on the business side of things. We need players to market. So I don't think they're trading everybody. I don't think they're trading a lot of the bigger guys. I think a lot of people will say, oh, well, we need this, and this, so why don't we just trade everybody at their highest value? I get it, but at the same time, I always try to answer the question of, for what? Because everybody says that, well, trade Konechny for this. Well, if you want to trade Konechny for picks, you're setting yourself back more, because all you're doing then is waiting for those players to develop, and it's not a guarantee that they're all going to develop. So you really have to hit, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think they're very clear they want to hit. You know, Briere mentioned getting the second-round pick, and he said they're still trying to figure that out. It was rumored to be in 2023, then in 2024, and then nobody knows, and including the GM. So I think a lot of it's kind of changed, and I think there are some guys that, you know, we don't really know who are going to be here that might stay, and I think one is Tony DeAngelo. So let me play Tony's clip now.
Well, the way I put it, I love being a Flyer. You know, my whole life I've wanted to be a Flyer. Now that I am, so I don't take it for granted at all. It's something that means a lot to me. So I'm not gonna, you know, we're not gonna let any relationship stuff get in the way. He's the coach of the team, so you got to respect that, and I respect what he does. Do I agree with it? What happened in the last 5 games? Absolutely not. I think it's ridiculous that I didn't play the last 5. That's one thing, but he's also the coach of the team. It's not my job to decide that. All I can worry about is being a good teammate, which I think I did. Tried to stay out of the way, and I don't want to be a distraction to anybody. These guys had stuff to play for. There's milestones guys are trying to get to. Guys are trying to play for contracts next year. I don't know how many guys are due up, but all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to be a distraction. That's why I was glad there was no. I know you guys are writing stories and all this, but it was more about, for me, what them guys were doing. I was done. Wasn't playing, so it made no difference at all. And just try to be around, be a good teammate, watch the games. There were some good games, some good stuff happened. You see, keep watching guys like Tip and all that, and just try to take that approach for what am I going to do for my own. I wasn't playing. It is what it is.
So just to be clear, you do want to come back?
I plan on being back. I want to come back. I have no clue what's going to happen. That's not my decisions. But I'll be training and getting ready to play another season here yet.
Tony wants to come back. Briere said they're interested in bringing him back. If they can work it out, I think Tony DeAngelo is going to stay a Flyer. I mean, I don't see the reason to really get rid of him. Because I just look at it like this. Like, okay, Provorov's been rumored for how long, right? If you move out Provorov, who's taking his minutes? There's no defenseman on this roster right now that can play those minutes at that level that Provorov does. Trading DeAngelo, right, and then you have the question of Sanheim. That's just another area. It's just like working out. Why does everything have to always be a send-off? Like, why? Just work it out. Like, this is year 1 of the rebuild. And I was just thinking about this as soon as I started. I'm like, when did this really start, the rebuild? And I thought it started the day that Alain Vigneault got fired. That's when it started. Because I look at it like this. Like, you tried to compete in the COVID year, the 56-game season, 2020-21. You're, like, in the middle of, trying to still be a good team and go off of that good season. Well, you played terrible for most of that year. Then last year, you still tried to add. You added. You were horrible in the first couple of months. 10-game losing streak. Vigneault gets fired, and that was it. Like, there was no bringing anything back. The run that they had, the small run they had, was done. And at that point, it was like, let's just rebuild. Because I think everybody knew at that point that Giroux wasn't re-signing. It was just a turn of the tables. And now, it was very clear to me that this was year 1, and the rebuild started when Vigneault got fired. I think this draft can help. I think there's a lot of different things with that. But one other thing I want to add here from exit day, and Jeffrey, I think for the goalie situation, I'm not trading Carter Hart. I think Hart mentioned Urson being competition being healthy, and I like that too. Again, we're in a rebuild. We don't need a set 1A goalie right now. Well, see what can happen. Again, I got Jay Rosehill coming in here in a couple of minutes. Got 12 people in here. What's up, everybody? Thanks everybody for tuning in. But one other thing, I just wanted to mention Hayes because unfortunately I'm not going to be able to get through the whole all the interviews that I kind of have here, taking up a little more time, and had to switch some stuff around with Jay as well. So I just want to play Hayes, and then we'll kind of go from there. So here's Kevin Hayes from Exit Day.
I think you guys know how much I love it here. I signed here 7 years. Absolutely love this organization. I thought Chuck was great. I loved AV. I mean, I know they've both caught a lot of flack here from fans and media, but yeah, I mean, Danny B's great. And the city's awesome. It's a sports town. Like you said, I'm turning 31. I picked up the message that was sent months ago. I'm okay with it. It's their decision. I don't want to say I'm suited for a contender because I think I'm suited for anyone, to be honest. But yeah, we'll see how that unfolds. Their decisions have probably already been made. We don't know them yet. I'm sure I'll find out around the draft.
It's very clear to me what's going on here. Hayes loves Philadelphia, loves being a Flyer, and doesn't like the coach. And it's vice versa. I don't think him and Torts get along. I think it's very clear. And Thompson called him out at the end of the year. Well, he didn't say his name publicly, but it was pretty clear who he was talking about. To me, there's no need. I'm at the point with Hayes where I would have been fine with keeping him. And the thing is, if the Flyers do trade him, they're going to have to retain some money. So you're probably going to have to retain about half his deal. So, I mean, a lot of different things, and look, I think they're on the right track with this. Like, if you move out some of these veterans, and I think you're going to have to do, Torts talked about subtraction, and the guys who won't accept the accountability, you're going to have to get moved. And I think we all understand that at this point. It's really hard to, think of all, and I know everybody kind of feels like a certain way about the positives of this season, and I've personally gotten a lot of crap for being either too positive or this and that and the other. I try to stay neutral with this stuff, so I have, that was more of like the negative part of kind of exit day, I guess, and some of the things and really the big questions for this team moving forward. I mean, like, you have a lot of different questions here and who gets moved. I do think there's going to be one of those moves that's like, I don't really know. I really don't know about Provorov. Like, at this very moment, I'm still like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's going to get dealt. I wonder if it's someone else. I don't think it's D'Angelo either, with the way that everything sounded. Briere said they had interest in it. Tony even said it himself. I just played that. So I think a lot of different stuff can kind of switch over. But got Jay Rosehill calling in now. So let's get Jay here on the phone. There he is. Hey, Jay.
Hey, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
Couple of things. Leafs tonight. I know you're doing Leafs take. Leafs win the series. What are you thinking for the Leafs?
Yeah, I got them to win the series. This year, I think they're more well-rounded of a team, and I think they're ready to go. They're mature, and I think what they did at the deadline is super important, especially with O'Reilly, and Samsonov, I think, is ready to make his mark here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, especially, they kind of added a bunch really they added a lot. Just kind of going off of that, I like earlier I was looking through, your career and stats and all that other stuff. For you obviously played a lot in the American League. What are some of the things that when you were kind of, going through the American League and kind of learning, for you, I guess, what were some of the things that you were able to kind of pick up from playing, more and just kind of getting into the playoffs in the American League? Like how important is that for you, like as a young player and kind of getting in and just all of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, experience is everything. The more times you can put yourself in different situations and positions and, intense situations throughout the season, whether it be playoffs or whatever the case is, you're just always going to benefit from it down the road. And the more times you do that, the more comfortable you get with being in that situation. So that's why everyone's always harping so much on experience, and that's why, you know, experienced guys get re-signed and are sought after at the deadline and whatnot, because, you know, it is so valuable to have, especially if you got a group of young guys who may not be ready for that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, especially too, because like for you, when you played in the American League, that was more of like, you know, like the AHL was more physical. There were more fights, all that stuff. So I think a lot of that is definitely true, because, you know, like obviously the NHL has changed and it's more of a speed and skill game. Just kind of going off that too, like just, I guess, just kind of add a question here. What are your kind of thoughts on the NHL now? You know, I know you've kind of said it before, but, you know, it seems like now it's a different game. There's a lot of different things that, you know, change, and speed and skill, and it doesn't really seem like you can hit anybody clean anymore without being a fight. What are some of your thoughts on the NHL now?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question the league's just much softer now. They're you know, you get the lawyers involved, and the NFL is putting out close to $1 billion in restitution and whatnot to the players for the headshots and the concussions. And, you know, the NHL is a big business, and they don't want to be cutting checks like that. So if they can, you know, prevent themselves from doing that by backing off on the hitting, backing off on the potential concussions, you know, they're going to do that, and they're going to protect themselves. And I think that's the reason you've seen the NHL back off so much, and you're calling so many more penalties on what used to be suspended more. And when you're losing paychecks, getting suspended, you know, you're going to think twice before hitting that guy. And, you know, it's turned into a special teams league in a lot of ways. And, you know, if you're going to win a game, especially in the playoffs, it's going to be a 1-goal game, and that 1 goal is probably going to be, you know, on the power play. And if you can put your team on the power play by putting yourself in a vulnerable position and, you know, yard sailing and diving and laying there and acting like you're hurt, you know, the league's going to answer to that, and they're going to penalize the player who did that. And oftentimes that's the difference in the game. So just by nature, everyone's going to back off doing that a whole bunch. And that's what you see now. But, you know, take last night, for example, you're looking at playoff hockey, and I just love that there's still, you know, they still let that go a little bit in the playoffs. There's too much at stake. They allow guys to hit and to be aggressive, and you saw that last night, you know, so that still makes my heart full watching playoff hockey like that.
No, for sure. I mean, look, I feel like, you know, anybody who watches the game knows a little bit about hockey. I think everybody could agree that this is the best time of the year. You know, I honestly, I think one of the you know, and I guess it's kind of weird to say it this way, but one of the cool things about the NHL and the bubble was there were games on the entire day, starting from like noon. So it'd be like noon, 2 o'clock, 4, like it would just go like throughout the entire day. And, you know, that was one of the real cool things about it. Just kind of, you know, just going off of that, for the Flyers, you know, it's really different now, obviously, since you've been here. You played a little bit as a Flyer and also as a Phantom. Flyers are rebuilding, obviously. They're kind of in a weird state where you don't really know what's kind of happening. And there's so many different changes from the front office to GM and just so many different things. And just even people in Comcast. Just one of the main things that they kind of have is no captain. And, you know, Torts has said that there was no captain this year, no captain for next season as well. Obviously, you're a guy that's played with so many different guys and, you know, a lot of different leaders. What are some of the things of not having a captain that can kind of be negative about it? And, you know, I actually asked this to Riley Cote just a couple weeks ago, and he kind of mentioned that, you know, it didn't really seem like the best timing for you know, asking that, because Torts was kind of the one who brought it up, and it was a couple weeks before the season ended, and he was kind of saying that, you know, it seems like something that can just be, you know, at the end of the season, exit day mentioned. Like, it seemed like Torts was just kind of mentioning it, like, just at that time, just for the media, just to kind of start, like, talking about something.
Yeah, it's different. You know, you go through those rebuilding periods, and you know every team has to go through it at some point or another, and it's never easy for the city, the fans, the team itself, and you're always kind of looking for that big draft pick or that big deadline acquisition or a coach to come in and revitalize the group and get more out of them than people were expecting. And with that comes the leadership group within the locker room, and the captain goes a long ways in doing that. And that being said, you need a type of player that can lead and that does have that professionalism and can take that group on his back and lead the way. And it's nice to have that. It means a lot to the locker room and to the team. But that being said, an organization like the Flyers, who prides themselves on having a pretty steep tradition, they want to make sure that when they give that C away, it's to the right person. And
Right.
I think as hard as it is to go into, it's tough to go 2 seasons without a guy, and you'd like to see someone stand up and step up and earn that. But I don't think they're going to give it to just anybody. And, as painful as that is to go through those growing pains and to find the right personnel to lead the way, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You want to give it to the right guy, and you want to have it to somebody who's going to take it for a long time and who really deserves it and has earned it. At the same time, it sucks going through a season without that leadership group because of, how important that can be to the guys in that room.
Right. No, like exactly because kind of like my thing with it is like, is there really like not a guy in there who can't wear that letter? You know what I mean? Because that's kind of where I look at it is like there's no way that there isn't at least one person.
Yeah, like who are the front runners? Like is Scott Lawton kind of the front runner?
Yeah, like Lawton, like Atkinson, Couturier, like there's definitely some competition for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like from my perspective, Lawton to me, it's funny because he's been playing for, I don't know, what has he been in the league for a dozen years for sure. He's a veteran guy, and I mean when I think of it, he seems like an up-and-comer and a younger guy, but, it shows how much time has passed since I was playing with him. But, Couturier, I mean, that guy is, I think he was wearing an A when I was there. He is the professional. He is consistent. But at the same time, he's not overly vocal. He kind of stays in his own bubble and does his own thing, and he really keeps to himself. And if you want to follow him and do what he does, you're going to be pointed in the right direction for sure. But I guess they must be looking for somebody that's a little bit more vocal, a little more rah-rah, a little bit more, a little bit more seen. Coots kind of does his thing and does it very well, and it is a constant professional, but maybe to their personnel, he just doesn't check enough of the boxes to wear the C. Maybe Torts was just so upset with the year and how everything went, and maybe his expectations were higher. He didn't even want to think about giving anyone the accolade of wearing the captaincy of the Philadelphia Flyers. It's tough to say, but, again, if you give it to somebody, you're not going to just go and, maybe they make a July 1st accusation of a guy who is heads and shoulders a captain material, but you already gave it to, Atkinson or Lawton or something like that. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, geez, we wish we, would have held off. That could be in mind, but it's a tough thing to say. I do know for sure that when you give something like that to somebody, you want them to have it for a long time, and you're really putting all your horses on that guy and wanting him to lead the team for years to come.
Right, exactly. And, part of it, too, is Atkinson, like, he didn't play this season. Couturier didn't play this season. So, like, these guys have been hurt. So it's kind of just like, kind of by default, they're waiting. But at the same time, it's like, you have to try to, find something. Because for Lawton this year, like, he wore the A for the assistant captain. No other Flyer wore it. Usually the past couple of years they had, like Giroux was obviously captain, and then they'd have 3 or 4 guys all have A's. So just since everything's kind of changed and all those guys have been gone, a lot of the guys on the leadership side of things of just wearing the letter alone, all that's changed. Just kind of staying on that note, where do you kind of see the Flyers after year one of the rebuild? Obviously Torts is a big factor in the entire thing. New GM with Briere, all that stuff. So where are you kind of thinking about, just where the team is at, or like right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're in tough. I mean, I think they started the season pretty well and had, kind of had some success early, and then I think the experience caught up to them, and obviously they didn't finish in a great place. And I think expectations are always high within that organization, but the reality is you got to go through a building process. You got to develop some players into, stars, and, like a Claude Giroux who's going to come up, and if you want one of those guys, you can't just snap your fingers and do it. I mean, there's 32 teams out there, and you got to be performing with the best of the best every single night. And if you're in that development stage and you're in that rebuild process, it's tough sledding. And that being said, anything can happen. You get some guys unexpectedly step up. You could make some trades. You could make some free agent signings. You get a goalie like Hart steps up and all of a sudden, catches fire for, months at a time, and you just start racking off wins and gathering points. And it's just a slow build till all of a sudden this group builds an identity, and all of a sudden they're running with it, and then the confidence builds, and then everyone's gaining experience, and it's kind of a slow burn, but when it starts to build, things can happen quick. So yeah, again, it's in the rebuilding process, and there's plenty of upside, and the Flyers will be on top here again before you know it. But everyone goes through these things, and I mean, there's no point beating your head against a wall trying to make something work that isn't ready, because again, it is that good of a league, and it does take time, and it is a process to put together a winning team, and they're just in the midst of that right now. Right,
exactly. I mean, and especially too because everything can change May 8th. If they win the lottery, somebody's organization is going to get changed that day, in a very drastic way. Just for you, like playing here in Philly, what are some of your favorite moments as a Flyer? And I guess you could throw Phantom into that too. What are your favorite moments as a Flyer and Phantom?
Yeah, I just remember getting signed, getting traded there, and then re-signing with them. And Paul Holmgren gave me a contract and said that he saw a lot of himself in me. And Peter Laviolette was there when I first got there. He put a lot of trust in me, and it was actually a pretty tough break for me that he got fired so early in that season when I was starting off with them. But I just remember playing in the Wells Fargo Center. I remember the fans and all the fans on Broad Street there that are just, they're one of a kind, right? They're blue collar, there's no BS, and they liked the way I played. They were loud, they didn't hold back at all, and you knew what they wanted and you wanted to give it to them. And putting on that jersey was pretty awesome. And my first game as a Flyer was back in Toronto against my old team, and I fought Colton Orr that night and kind of put him down, and I scored the game-winning goal, which was pretty special.
No big deal.
To have that game for a player like me who doesn't exactly do that every day was pretty special to make my entrance to the Flyers organization, and all the history that they have was pretty special.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and like earlier I was texting you about it, that like one of the biggest goals that I think that you probably scored in that season, which was 2013-14. I remember, again, I was a young kid, and it was a Saturday afternoon playing the Oilers, and the Flyers were really struggling. Like, I believe the game before that got shut out. It wasn't too long after the game against Washington where Holtby just where Ray Emery just beat the piss out of Holtby, all of that stuff, and the Flyers were struggling, couldn't really score. Giroux hadn't even scored a goal yet, and you ended up opening the scoring against the Oilers, and Giroux scored that game. Flyers won. Then they kind of just went on like a tear, made the playoffs, ended up losing to the Rangers in 7. But just like little things like that, I think for me as someone who's very easily a diehard fan, and for anything like that, I think it's the little things, and just to me, like, a lot of people will kind of look at it like certain players aren't as good as for interviews and stuff like that. If it's like say if it's a first line guy, or kind of like yourself, who was a fourth line guy type thing, and I'm just like, well, to me, any player who plays in the National Hockey League special, and any guy that does that and is able to go through the I guess growing pains of becoming an NHL player and all that stuff is cool. So I feel like for me it's different in that way, because there's so many different things that you can kind of look at in his season, and so many different like little memories. Just kind of going back to the Flyers a little bit. What are some of your I guess for where the team is at right now, how do How do you like Danny B as GM? What are some of the things that you think that he can kind of help out with the team?
Yeah, I mean, just he's a guy who's got such a good hockey head. I mean, you saw it when he was a player, just the way he handled himself, and you could tell he was, thoughtful in his process and everything like that. And the way he went about his business was usually pretty calculated. And I think he's going to bring that to the Flyers organization. And he's going to surround himself with the right people. They're going to have a clear objective. They're going to be, focused on, improving certain parts of the roster, and they're going to go full guns blazing towards doing that. Everything it takes to be a GM, from keeping in touch with your scouts and having everyone on the same page is going to be imperative. And I think with a guy like him who, like I said, is pretty calculated about everything he does, I think he's going to, put that team on the track to having success, as every GM's trying to do. But him in particular, he seems to have a good head on his shoulders. He's very well liked by everyone that he used to play with and everyone that he works with now. So, I mean, that's important to have those relationships in place. And like I said, be in touch with the rest of your brass and your assistants and the coaching staff, the scouts, and all the way down to the players for sure to have everyone's respect and to know that, everyone's on board with the same objective is exactly what he's going to be doing in that city, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. Couple of things just to kind of end off here. What are your thoughts going into the NHL playoffs for this year?
Yeah, I mean, the East is very strong. They've been strong all year long, and I just obviously Boston is the one that stands out with their record, and the season that they had was just next to none. But I truly believe that the Maple Leafs have got a lot to give this year. The New York Rangers are up there as well. Carolina could do something special. The New Jersey Devils. It goes on and on in the East, and then I think the West is anybody's race. I mean, Edmonton's looking strong. You got a lot of high caliber, quality talent in Colorado, and I honestly think that it's going to be a battle in the East to get to the finals. I really do, and if Boston happens to run all the way, I really think they're going to win the Cup. But if someone can knock them off, a 7-game series. Things can happen. Allmark gets hurt, and all of a sudden it's a whole different story. So it's pretty up in the air right now, but I love the intensity of the first round. I love seeing the goaltenders battle it out against each other. It always seems to be a story. And, yeah, again, I think the East is very strong, but at the end of the day, all you got to do is get into playoffs, get your foot in the door, and just give it your all and see what happens. It's really anybody's race once that postseason starts.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like for the West, again, it's kind of like what you were saying. I mean, there really is no team like Colorado was last year. I mean, it's wide open. If I had to pick right now, and I know I'm saying this after both teams lost last night, my conference final going into this year was Dallas against Edmonton. If I had to, if it was in the East. It's hard. I'd probably say, because Jay, I feel like that you would agree with this, but I personally do think that the Leafs are going to win. I finally think that they're going to break the curse. At least just to kind of get out, because I kind of feel like for them it's similar to the Capitals in 2018 when they finally got out of the second round. I feel like whatever year the Leafs get out and they get in, and in the playoffs, get out of the first round, I feel like that's probably their year.
It's got the potential, right? I mean, and they've said this before. They thought they've had teams that'll go the distance and they fall flat on their face, and anything can happen. But at the end of the day, I just think I'd look at this roster and how well-rounded they are. They've solved their goaltending issues, their defensive issues. They've got grit. They've got some toughness. They've got leadership. They've got depth, and they've got scoring talent out the yin yang. So I really just think if they can put it together, it's a matter of putting it together at the right times, putting it together against this Tampa team, and overpowering them and just racking up the wins and getting a full head of steam to move into the second round. And I truly believe they're going to get out of the first round this year, and then after that, it's just it's just anybody's guess. I really think Boston's going to be difficult, but I just certainly don't think it's impossible for whoever has them in the second round to somehow solve them and get the best of them. And that's why we watch, right? You never know what's going to happen. So it's the excitement of this year, as always.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just one last thing here. What's your favorite Claude Giroux moment from when you were a Flyer?
Oh, true moments. Tough to say, man. Some of his shootout moves, like when the game's on the line, he can win it in the shootout, and he just pulls out some ungodly move that no one even understands how the puck went which way and the body went the other way and the goalie's going a third direction, and it's just everyone just puts their head back and almost laughs, looks at each other and says, "Holy smokes, can you believe that?" And that's the kind of stuff that guy could pull off, and he did it quite often, to be honest.
Yeah, no, for sure. Jay, thanks so much, man. This was great. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to your thoughts on the Leafs moving forward. And again, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, man. Good luck with the show, and good luck with everything you're doing. Keep going. It's great to see you, and good luck to you too. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thanks, Jay. I appreciate it, man.
You bet. Take care.
See you, man. There he is, Jay Rosell. Again, that was great. Jay is he's a good guy. I always liked Jay when he was here. Again, I was very, very young at the same time too, so don't give me crap for that. So, couple of things. I wanted to get into some player grades, as I'm going to bring up the board here. As you see, I'm in this small camera, and now I'm going to be in this camera. So these are my player grades and coach grades for the 2022-23 Philadelphia Flyers. A lot to kind of dissect here. I didn't write a single thing down in my notebook on this segment. All I have is these letters and different things. I'm just going to kind of go through them one by one. We'll kind of just, kind of break it down. I think it's pretty obvious who the A's are. You have TK, Tippett, Hart, Frosty, Cates, Sammy Urson, York, Risto. I think it's pretty clear that those guys were the A's. Again, TK, monster season for him. Tippett, again, really, really good season overall. Again, a lot of these you can kind of put into different things. I'm curious, what does everybody in the chat think about my grades here? Are they fair? Are they not fair? Is there something you would disagree with? Again, I also, take into consideration with the coaches as well. There's only a handful of Ds, and a lot of it went off of games and games played at the same time, so keep that in mind. Like, example, Adam Getting played one game, so that's why he has a B, because I thought he had a pretty good game. So there's different things as well. Same thing with Rodney Adder, played 2 games. So, for this season and for this overall year, this is kind of where I'm at. The last year I did the tier maker. I figured I'd make this for the pod here. Dank, I think that's fair. Forrester B+. I think that's fair. I try to kind of keep it, pretty similar in the sense of trying to be fair at the same time with also not trying to kind of take away. I thought a B was fair, but I understand your argument for B+. He pretty much was an A in most of those games. And again, just the scoring and all of that stuff. I think for a lot of this list, again, McEwen, it's probably the best rating for a guy like McEwen, right? I mean, he can't go really any higher than that. He can't go really any lower. I thought McEwen played well, though. It's not like a bad rating. I like Zamula. There were some moments where I would have liked him to stand out a little more consistency. Farabee obviously was a little up and down. Wade Allison, same thing. I mean, up and down. Van Riemsdyk, again, Owe Lixel, there were moments where I thought he stood out, and there also were some moments that, he wasn't as great, there were some games where Lixel looked good, and then there were some games where he was just kind of invisible. So I think a lot of that stuff is just growing pains too. Patrick Brown, Zinski, Willman, Lemieux, I feel like nobody can really argue this a C grade for those guys. Like it's pretty fair. I agree with Briere on Exit Day. He basically said, Lemieux had a good chunk of games and all of that stuff. Dank, I'm gonna get to Sedlak in a minute. I really thought that Lemieux had a good start, but once he kind of the games kept going along, he was very unnoticeable. And again, it's different. Like, you're coming over from a playoff team to a non-playoff team. You're going from Todd McClellan to John Tortorella. There's a huge dip, change and just dip. And, I think for Lemieux, it kind of ebbed and flowed. But I thought overall, I think he definitely deserved a chance. I would re-sign him if they do. They're going to talk about it. Hayes, I think everybody kind of understands, why Hayes is a C-. I talked about it before. I liked, his offensive production. I thought his defensive production in the beginning of the season was bad, and I thought towards the end of the year he just gave up. And I thought it was pretty clear on the ice that he gave up. Sandstrom, I hated doing this grade for Sandstrom. I like Sandstrom a lot. And I kind of feel bad saying a C-, but it's just, that's kind of where I'm at. Like he had some real good games. He had some not so good games. I felt like there were some games for Sandstrom where it was like they probably should have won for him. I think, like, just keeping it on the forwards a little bit, Bellows, he just didn't really impress me that much. Sedlak, I give Sedlak the D because he just left. Like, he would have been a C+ if he stayed, but he left mid-season. Like, he just left, and it was like, all right, he's going home. So I'm like, how can I give a guy a higher grade if he just leaves? So that's kind of why I gave Sedlak a D, because it's not like I didn't thought he played bad. I thought he was great, but he left. So, like, again, how can I give a guy a higher grade for that? Jackson Cates, I mean, he didn't really show much. Hodgson, he played one game and he was pretty putrid, but he is a very valuable piece to the Phantoms, I'll say that. And I'm talking about the Phantoms. So, again, I got the jersey on. Watch party tonight for the Phantoms as well here on the channel. Game 1, round 1, Charlotte Checkers. Going to be fun. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Again, the defense. Again, like, I gave Ginning the B. I gave Zamula the C+. Yeah, I mean, not really much changed, with the D. I mean, I thought York was their best defenseman. Ristolainen, another A. Sealer B+, played great. I thought Provorov B+. I thought he played good for everything that kind of went on throughout the year with Provy. D'Angelo, he's a C. I mean, I can't give him a B. I like the offensive production. I didn't really like the defense. Do I think there's room to work there? Yes. Do I think everybody understands it? Yes. It's just kind of where I'm at with Tony. Justin Braun C+. And, I really wanted to give Braun a B, but I'm like, he didn't play that much. And at the same time, like, he's Justin Braun. You know what I mean? Like, the defense was Yandel level. Well, last year, I think my gradings, I forget my grades last year, but I think Yandel got an F because he was that bad. I think I gave him an F. I don't remember that. I'd have to go back and look. Sanheim, I gave him a D. I mean, Sanheim, similar offensive production, a couple assists off, same amount of goals, but it wasn't consistent enough for my liking. Is on a pretty bad term contract. Money-wise, it's fine. And just, I would like to see more from him. He doesn't really show much for me. Yeah, I think that's fair. D'Angelo was just as bad defensively as Yandel. He scored a ton more. I don't know. I mean, I think it's fair in the sense of like him scoring. I think the offensive rate of him scoring is fine. Defensively, I don't think he's as bad as Yandle. I think we can all agree that Yandle was quite literally putrid. I don't think D'Angelo was that bad, because the difference with D'Angelo and Yandle was consistently like shit. Like, he was bad for the entire season. D'Angelo was good for a little bit, would kind of ebb and flow, and then everything kind of just went really bad. Howard, I think that's fair on Sealer. I understand where you're coming from, because again, I thought he played well too. I just really liked York. I like first of all, I think I liked York too because he played more minutes. You know, he played first pair, and he played on the opposite side of where he usually is supposed to play. So there's that too. I think it's fair. I'm curious what everybody kind of thinks on the coaches. I gave Torts an A because of the roster, and I think he's kind of managed this really well. Shaw, I gave a B. I know the PK hasn't been great, but I think defensively he's turned around guys like Ristolainen, guys like Sealer, right? York played really well, like Provorov, like there's different things. Rocky Thompson, I gave a C+, and because really the power play, because the power play wasn't good. it had some okay moments. It wasn't really that great for any of the season at really any point. I think, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to say because I do like Thompson. I think there's some things that you can. I think there's some things with Thompson that you can like. I think the overall setup of the power play is okay. I think it's fair. I mean, I think I more went towards a positive grade for him because I think of the way he kind of handled the end of the season. He had, he just came out and said it, and that's kind of, and look, I get it. It's only a 1-game thing, but that's important when you can call out a certain type of. Just call out the guys, and that's important to me. So I understand, again, the power play wasn't great, but I do think there were some okay moments from it, but just overall, it was just bad. It needs to be better next year. I agree. If it doesn't get any better next year, I don't understand how you can keep Rocky Thompson, because how? Like, it wasn't good for the entire year. Frost, again, I gave an A. I really liked Frost for most of the season. Everybody knows how I feel about Morgan Frost. Everybody knows. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with the way he ended his season. I think there was a lot of good things from it. Noah Cates, I gave an A. Very good defensively. He's up there in Selke voting. He's up there in goals as a rookie or points as a rookie. Excuse me. Delorier, I gave a B. I mean, for his role, for the locker room stuff, and what he provides off the ice for this team, perfectly fine with Nick Delorier. Scott Lawton, I gave a B. I really do like Lawton. I like a lot of what he does. I think I really like Lawton because he loves to be a Flyer. And we need a lot of guys who want to be Flyers. We don't really have... And again, I don't want to make it like we don't have any guys that don't love being here. I'm not saying that. I just think it's very clear, and he's not the only one. Like, you see it with Frost, you see it with Tippett, you see it with DK. Like, there's many other guys. Like, there's a really important aspect of Lawton's game that he kind of brings. But again, I feel like, like there's so many different things that are going to be changing this year. Swap Lemieux and McEwen. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I'm trying to find where Lemieux is on the board, and I just lost it. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. See, I really liked McEwen. I thought he played well up until he got hurt, and then obviously he was supposed to come back and then got traded. So unfortunately, that's kind of where it happened. Unfortunately, where it kind of just fell apart. But again, I wanted to mention the Phantoms tonight. As I'm trying to. Here we go. I almost lost the paper for the Phantoms here. So again, these are my playoff grades. My player grades for the year. I'm getting a little too excited to talk about the Phantoms. Here we go. So Phantoms. Got a couple of minutes here. Game starts in 5 minutes, so we're going to kind of go through this quick so I can get set up for the watch party. Phantoms taking on the Charlotte Checkers. Game 1, round 1. Couple of different things. Got my dad calling in. Go ahead, Dad.
Yo, what's up?
What's up?
Calling, all right, you and I were at the game, Phantoms game Friday night, playing the same team they're going to be playing in this series, Charlotte.
Yep.
All right. I don't think they looked that great on Friday. I thought they were
okay.
Yeah, I thought they were a little flat. I thought some passes were bad.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
guys not there or, you know, slapping off the puck. I tell you, the only highlight that really was not even Brink's goal, Brink Selly. Was,
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, like the power play wasn't great. They couldn't really get that going. The second period was good. They just shots were 5-4 in favor of the Phantoms, but they just couldn't get much toward the net, really. Yeah, just kind of a sloppy game. I mean, look, it was a tough way to end the season going 0-3 because you just had such a good weekend previous. When I last talked about it, that they had, you know, a week of just trying to, you know, win any of those games could have, you know, helped get home ice or any of that in the playoffs. And now you have to play 3 straight in Charlotte, you know, if the series goes 3, because again, this series is only a 3-game series.
And it's all in Charlotte.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's all in
no
Charlotte.
home game for the Phantoms.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's just kind of how it goes. So, yeah, I mean, look, for the overall season series, it was 4-4 for both teams. Both teams were 3-1 on the road, 3-1 at home, 1-3 on the road. Phantom scored 25 goals. Charlotte scored 24. You know, like leading scorers, like you know, a lot of guys were able to kind of score. Same guys that really led the Phantoms in scoring for the season: Forrester, Anisimov, Dinoye, Brooks. It's funny because Gary Mayhew had 5 goals in 8 games against the Phantoms this year. So, you know, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We'll see. Again, it's 3 games. It can go either way. The last time they played Charlotte, you had the really long 5 overtime game where Lyon made like 90-something saves, and they ended up winning that in 2018. So we'll see how it goes. It'll be long, and the one thing that is good about this, at least, is that if you win the series, you play Providence instead of Hershey. So that's kind of better as well. So we'll see.
All right. End the show so we can go down and watch the game. Let's go Phantoms.
All right.
I'll talk to you. See you in a minute.
Yep.
Peace.
Yep. So that's my dad calling in. I'm going to take his advice. We're done here. Show is all done for this week. Thanks everybody so much for all the support. Thank you to Jay Rosehill for tuning in. For everybody, I'm literally going to be going live in like 5 minutes for the Phantoms game. Jeffrey Howard, Dank, Mr. Twister, C Mac, everybody, Tristan, Kylo Green, Eric Wisniewski, Jeffrey, my dad, everybody. Thanks everybody so much for tuning in here. And again, thank you to Jay Rosehill for hopping on. Let's go Phantoms. Game 1 coming up soon here on the channel for the watch party. Hope to see you guys all there, and I'll talk to you all